What's up, guys? So today I'm going to be going over one of my builds that I think is going to be really potent in Edge of Fate with the new stat bonuses and armor changes and basically all the ability updates. So first of all, we're going to be utilizing Speaker Sight, which is going to turn our healing grenade into basically a healing turret. The whole basis of this build is support. So if you want a more damage focused build, I will have an updated version of that once we get access to the new Hellion exotic for Warlock. So in terms of what sort of abilities I'm running, I like Phoenix Dive with Hellion and Touch of Flame, just so I have no extra burst of healing for myself and easier. It's a faster cooldown, so more uptime on Hellion. And then the healing grenade obviously is a pivotal moment of this. I choose Celestial Fire over Incinerator Snaps specifically just so I can get Radiant procs with Ember of Torches a lot easier. The main thing, I have two fragments for Hellion. So Soul Ignition spreads Scorch to affected targets, and I apply more Scorch stacks to targets, so using Char and Ashes for Hellion damage. And then Benevolence is basically going to be the return on my grenade, melee, and class ability regeneration. So that's going to increase the regen. We're going to be over 100 on the grenade stat. I have armor set up for this. We'll have armor set up for this. And then as far as weapons go, it's gonna be pretty much just whatever turns out to end up being decent and good once Edge of Fate releases. We do have interest in the artifact though, with Stasis and Solar. As far as champion mods go, we'll just we'll use whatever the activity calls for. But as far as artifact perks go, I want to mainly be focused on column 3, 4, and 5. So with column 3, we have Elemental Benevolence, which is granting allies an elemental buff grants class ability energy. So we can do that with Restoration and Cure. Will give us more class ability energy. So that's more uptime on Hellion and more Phoenix Dives. And then we have Fever and Chill, which is Reposition hits with solar weapons grants Radiant, and Reposition hits with stasis weapons grant Frost Armor. We're mainly focused on the solar weapons granting Radiant, so we can have Radiant on ourselves, as well as have the melee Radiant uptime. So that's another elemental buff that we can be giving to ourselves and then allies. And then in terms of column 4, we're going to be focusing on Elemental Daze and Cauterized Darkness. So Stasis or Strand debuff non-boss combatants take increased solar damage from all sources is Cauterized Darkness. And then Elemental Daze, stunning a champion with an elemental weapon creates an elemental aligned explosion, applying a matching elemental debuff to them and nearby targets. We'll see how good these are once we have access to them and see what the actual damage numbers are and be able to test that in the new firing range. And then for column 5, we're mainly looking at these top two right here. The other ones are great for other builds, but for the build that I'm looking for is dealing sustained weapon damage while radiant or defeating scorched enemies with a weapon causes the target to release solar projectiles that deal damage and scorch on impact. So sustained weapon damage while radiant, this whole time we will be radiant, we'll be scorching enemies with Hellion, we'll be doing so much stuff, so much damage. And then shield crush, we're mainly focused on the second half of this. While you're amplified and radiant, your grenade recharges faster and deals increased damage. Now this does say amplified and radiant. Not sure if that's just a typo or if that's supposed to be in terms of amplified or radiant, or you need to actually have both for this benefit. But we're going to treat it until we have access with it like it's one or the other. So with radiant, our grenades are just going to come back faster on top of the increased recharge rate that we're going to have with the with extra grenade stat and all that stuff. So I mean, you might be asking yourself, why straight solar instead of like prismatic with like similar things with Hellion? You have Devour on that build. You can also make yourself radiant. You have this, which increases the size of your solar ignitions, plus gives you weapon stat. You have so much more freedom with certain things. But I'm specifically going with solar just for Well of Radiance in terms of like day one raid, We don't know what the encounter is going to be like. We don't know how hard it's going to be. Now, Well did get nerfed, but Well is also a way to give yourself Radiant when you step out of it with your super, and also Restoration to your teammates, which again just recycles into Ember of Benevolence. So I have some gameplay with this build. This was Inside Terminus GM. There's no commentary on it. That's basically just it. So if this is all you came for, thanks for stopping in. Make sure you like and subscribe. If not, I have about a full GM of gameplay with this build, with a concept of it. So if you want to stick around for that, here you go.